Thumbnail for Back Home. Oh, God. Welcome back to Everyday's Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Everyday's Movie Ever. Today I'm going to talk about Back Home. Back Home is a 1990 Disney Channel television release. It is directed by Piers Haggard, cinematography by Witold Stok, editing by Peter Coulson, music by Ilona Sikach. I'm so sorry. And it's written by David Wood. Piers Haggard is best known for Blow Up, Conquest, Pennies from Heaven, and the fiendish plot of Dr. Fu Manchu. Witold Stok is best known for Viva Belarus, The Rector's Wife, and The Stringer. Peter Coulson is best known for Shackleton, Cleopatra, Gulliver's Travels, and Natural World. Ilona Sikach is best known for Mortimer's Law, Screen 2, Freud, and Elena's Gift. I couldn't find David Wood anywhere, so I think maybe he's just known for this? Which is a shame because this was amazing, so we'll get there. The film is based off a book of the same name published in 1984 by Michelle Magorian. Shall we compare? Rusty is a 12-year-old girl returning to England after spending 5 years in America during World War II. She's never met her 4-year-old brother Charlie and barely remembers her parents. Rusty arrives in Plymouth and is shocked by the state of things while her mother Peggy is shocked by how much she's grown. Rusty gets back to the house and meets Beatty, Ivy, Susan, and Charlie. Her mother scolds her for talking about her American family. I'm sorry, but 7 to 12? That's like some of the most important growth in a child's life, and you're gonna scold them for talking about the people they were with for those, like, no. Rusty thinks her mom doesn't want to get to know her because she spends so much time volunteering. Rusty takes a rowboat out for hours, and when she returns, her mother is furious for leaving without permission. Another girl named Beth owns the boat, and Rusty and Beth become friends. Beth tells Rusty all about her progressive school, but Rusty finds out she's being sent to boarding school. The war ends, and the family moves back up north, where Rusty meets her grandmother, who is mean and strict and hates everything American about Rusty. Rusty's sent to boarding school, and the school has some strange rules, like no hugging, no hand-holding, no walking alone, no use of slang, and okay and count as slang. Okay? How is okay slang? Rusty excels in art, gym, and dance, but is taken out of those classes for extra math and Latin lessons. As the weeks go on, Rusty dreams of her American family. Rusty grows depressed and suicidal and contemplates jumping off the school scaffolding. She climbs out and realizes she can't go through with it, so she runs into the forest for a few hours and decides she will do that every night. One day, Rusty meets a boy named Lance, who is also a US evacuee, and she's ecstatic to have someone who knows what she's going through. She's severely punished because speaking to boys is forbidden. However, her and Lance start meeting every night. Beatty dies, and Rusty and her mother go to the will reading. Beatty leaves Rusty her woodworking tools and Peggy her home. On this trip, Rusty and Peggy bond and realize they have a lot in common. Rusty's father, Roger, comes back from Asia and is awful. He sends her to boarding school full-time instead of her returning on weekends. Rusty doesn't get the letter saying she's now to spend weekends at the school to the headmistress, and instead spends the weekends in the cabin in the woods sprucing it up. The headmistress announces the removing of the scaffolding. Rusty is devastated and resolves to run away to America. Rusty realizes she can't run away to America because she's grown to love her mother, so she stays at Beatty's house. Beth and her mother find her at Beatty's house and take her back to school. Peggy and the headmistress are at the school sick with worry. They had found the cabin in the woods. Peggy is very impressed with what Rusty did to the cabin and realizes how desperate she must have been for freedom to climb the scaffolding in the dark. Rusty is expelled. Several months later, Peggy, Rusty, and Charlie live in Beatty's house, where Rusty gets to decorate her own room and go to Beth's school, where she has real friends. The end. The film stars Haley Mills, Haley Carr, Adam Stevenson, Jean Anderson, Rupert Frazier, Brenda Bruce, and George Clark. Haley Mills plays Mrs. Peggy Dickinson, and I covered her in the video about The Parent Trap 2. The link will be in the description. Haley Carr plays Rusty Dickinson, and she's best known for Baywatch, Dead Babies, For the Boys, and this. Adam Stevenson plays Charlie Dickinson, and is best known for Rain, Air Emergency, and this. Jean Anderson plays Grandmother, and she's best known for Solomon and Sheba, The Franchise Affair, The Lady Vanishes, and St. Ives. Rupert Frazier plays Roger, and is best known for Empire of the Sun, The Bank Job, John Carter, and Jupiter Ascending. Brenda Bruce plays Beatty and is best known for Peeping Tom, Little Dorrit, While the Sun Shines, and The Final Test. George Clark plays Lance and is best known for Ruby in Paradise, Harlem's Beauty, The Parenthood, and This. This movie is really good. It's very faithful to the book. It strays a little bit in the end, and because I don't know every single detail of the book, it might stray a little bit in the middle. But for the most part, it's the meat and potatoes of the book. It is pretty dang faithful to the book, and it is so good. The movie is about exactly what the book was about. A girl named Virginia Dickinson, when she was 7 years old, was sent to America for safety. She was an evacuee of England. Her parents sent her to America so she could be safe, because no one thought America was going to get involved in the war, but that obviously happened. And then she spends 5 years there. So she grows from 7 to 12. And then she loves her American family. They're wonderful. They call her Rusty because she has red hair. And she's sent back to England. And she's obviously very American. It's 5 years from 7 to 12. Those are very primitive years. So she has an American accent. She has the manners of an American. She is exactly the opposite of an English girl. And she goes by Rusty instead of Virginia. And it's about how she's trying to cope and relearn her family, and her family's trying to relearn her. I would say that her mother is a little less strict coming off in the movie. I really couldn't see Haley Mills being that mean, and she's really not mean in the movie. She's very distant at the beginning because she's kind of like, oh, my daughter's American. My daughter has grown so much. I missed so much of my daughter's life. I don't know where to even begin. So it's a little bit awkward and weird until they find their footing. But for the most part, her mom is actually quite sweet in the movie, but she does send her to boarding school. But she doesn't really want to. She sends her to boarding school because she knows Roger and her mother are going to want her to go to boarding school. So there's like little pieces that are like, oh, the dad's gonna suck when he comes. I don't want to go on an endless rant about this movie and how awesome it was or how much I liked it, but I do want to talk about probably like two things. One, the scene where Roger is going to whip Charlie with a cane was so well edited, acted, filmed, everything was so top-notch in that scene. I'm very tempted to put it here and have you watch it because it was so good. Rusty's trying everything in her power to keep her dad from hitting Charlie, and even a scene that comes a little bit after that when Charlie wants to sleep in Virginia's room is honestly the sweetest thing in the entire world, and I cried at that scene. But the scene where he's trying to beat Charlie was extraordinarily edited.
Go to your bed, Charles. Go on immediately. Go to bed, Charles.
Virginia! It's okay. What have you done to him?
Well, hold your tongue, Virginia. He's made an absolute disgrace of himself. Actually had to hold him down forcibly so that the barber could cut his hair. Well, at least he looks like a boy now. Go on, Charles. Go back to your room. Charles, this is your last chance. I'm going to my study to fetch the cane. If you're not back in your bedroom at the time I return, you'll feel it across your backside.
Mommy! No, it's okay. Come on. Grandmother, aren't you going to do anything?
It's nothing to do with me. It's up to your father.
Oh, come on.
So, you've deliberately disobeyed me.
It's okay, go on. No.
Come here.
No.
Come here. Come here.
No.
Will you come here?
Come on, please. Okay.
I sobbed toward the end of this film when Rusty goes missing because she runs away and ends up at Beatty's house. Instead of Beth and Beth's mom finding Rusty and taking her back to school, Peggy has discovered that Rusty is missing and is trying to find her. And there's a scene where Haley Mills is in the phone booth talking to Roger and the grandmother, and Charlie's there, but obviously Charlie's too little. And Haley Mills's performance, I just got a little bit emotional thinking about it. Dang. Her performance, immediately, I was primed and ready to cry, and then just as it kept progressing, she was getting emotional, being like, you know, we did this, we made her want to run away, it's our fault. I was like, oh my god. And then when she finds Rusty, she goes to Beatty's house, and she finds Rusty instead of Beth, and that's Mom finding her. That's the biggest difference from the book, probably. And Beth is sobbing, and then, like, I'm getting emotional. Peggy finds her and hugs her, and they both, like, there's, like, a minute where the camera just stays, and they're both crying. Dang! I was not thinking I was gonna get emotional talking about it. Whoa. And it just, like, stays on them for a second, and they're both crying, and you're like, dang, like, this is prime acting. The story, like, everything is emotionally there, including me, apparently. And then Peggy's apologizing, and Rusty is saying, you know, Lance and I didn't do anything. We were just friends, and she understands why her mother was friends with Mitch, and all this stuff is just, like, so beautiful in that scene. And then the film, like, ends, and it's Peggy, Rusty, and Charlie now live in Beatty's old house, which was left to Peggy. And it doesn't say anything in the book about this, but in the film they mention how Roger, they're separated and they're not together anymore, but Roger comes to visit, and he's more relaxed, and he's trying to be a good dad. And there's a scene of Rusty and her dad painting together, and I was like, dang, I'm so emotional. And I also wanted to say that I was so emotional. Obviously, I'm getting emotional about it now, which is insane. So I was going to talk about how that film left me with residual emotions. Most of the films I've watched so far, unless it's like Cinderella, which I just am unreasonably emotional about for no reason, or it's like a magical Disney feeling, most of them I cry in the moment, and then I'm fine, and I move on. And I'm fine, and I do, like, my research afterwards and wrap up everything for that film, and then I move on to the next film or whatever I have to do next. This film, I, like, it was really hard to shake off. I'm having emotions now. I had residual emotions, so the entire time I was doing the back-end research after I've watched the film, I was, like, still, like, needing to cry almost, and it like primed me for everything else, because the movie I watched after this I also cried at, which I don't know if I would have cried at it if I hadn't cried for Back Home. And then later that day I played a video game and cried, and I don't know if I would have cried. So I think this movie primed me emotionally to just be ready to cry at little things, because I just got emotional about it again. That was enough. Okay, moving on.
Hello, darling. It's Mummy. Listen, is Daddy home from the office?
Thank you, Charles. Hello?
Roger.
Margaret, where the Dickens are you?
Listen, is Virginia there?
Of course not. She's at school.
No, she's not. She's run away.
What? Virginia's run away from school.
Typical. Doesn't surprise me in the least.
Quiet, Mother, please. Well, what do we do? Do the police know?
Yes. We've got to find her, Roger. We've got to find...
All right, Margaret, now calm down. Now, I suggest you come back and wait for news here. But she's probably on her way home now.
I doubt it. There's nothing much for her there, is there? Not for me.
Margaret.
Let's face it, Roger. None of us are happy the way things are. Virginia's desperately unhappy, and it's all our fault.
Our fault.
I'm going to find her, Roger, and I'm going to make it up to her. And I'm not going to let you or your mother stop me.
One green bottle, she likes the fancy fall. The 3 green bottles hanging on the wall. 3
action stations.
I love you, Mother.
That's everything I have for Back Home. I highly encourage you to watch this movie. I thought it was amazing. I literally just got emotional talking about it, which I don't understand, but here we are. My final rating is 9 stencils out of 10. Our total movie count is... Our cry count is... Parent Death Toll is still the same. If you want to keep up with the movie I'm watching when, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, you'll find out what movie I'm watching when. I put up videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Until next time, comment, subscribe, and show if you are a studio, and don't be Roger about it. But in the movie, he does kind of relax, but like, don't beat your kids. Or anyone, for that matter. I cannot believe I just got emotional talking about this movie. That has that happened? I don't know if that's happened. I just got emotional talking about this movie.